Hello and welcome to Hanratty on Karate. Happy New Year to you all. A little belated, and I'm sorry I've missed a couple of broadcast dates, but had a few health problems, which happens at my age. And what I want to do now is get back to the subject that we were covering just before New Year, which was coaching and training in karate. Now, I think we covered a fair bit of motivation, but I think what we should do, and I do this in my club, is when we get students coming in after a week or two, we watch them and teach them, basics, breathing, how to make a fist and stuff like that. I like to ask them, why do you want to train in karate? Now, I've done this a number of times and I've mentioned it to a number of instructors, and even the instructors themselves have been wary about asking this. And so I wanted to find out why. And the reason they don't want to ask why people want to come into karate is because they think the student may start to question their original motivation and go, well, I don't know why I want to do it. It might be because my mates are doing it. It might be because I've read about it, things I've heard, stuff like this. And then they maybe just add on, well, do I really need to do this? So at that point, of course, you can interject and give them all the reasons that you have for doing karate. And I usually find that this works and helps them along. Okay. So training in karate is not all about competition, of course. What you want to impart, hopefully, is a good philosophy and a good lifestyle. And the teaching begins with the basics. And this is what you need to know. First, to be proficient, you need to know your body physiology, your body mechanics, all the basics that you need. They're just the fundamentals of how your body moves and what you can do with it. So the first, could be anywhere from up to a year, is going to be 90% physical. But while you're training in the physical aspect, you want to also be digesting some of the philosophy. And how we do this is how the class is usually made up, with the ranking system, which everybody is a part of. As soon as you come in, you're part of the ranking system. There's somebody above you, maybe there's somebody below you. Not at first, but there will be. And then, of course, we have the discipline. And the first disciplines are self-imposed. They're self-discipline. How to line up, how to bow, how to treat everybody else in the dojo, how to relate to your instructor. Okay? So these are all self-disciplines, but what they do is they set the correct atmosphere. And a lack of discipline in a dojo is going to have poor learning atmosphere and a poor teaching atmosphere, and there's going to be a lack of respect. Now, this comes about usually in kids' classes when you see the kids running around with no control and everything else. You won't see it in my dojo, and certainly probably not going to see it in your dojo, but we've all been into dojos where kids run around like idiots. The other thing is, they'll all come in and they'll gather into groups and just go over the gossip that happened since their last class, instead of, maybe doing a bit of stretching or practicing a technique that they're having difficulty with, even running through a kata. This is where your self-discipline comes in, and it sets the teaching tone for the club. Okay? As I say, it's 90% physical in the first up to a year. So the techniques are practiced and performed to the level of your ability, and then they're improved upon according to your ability, okay, and your capability, of course. Now, competition, it's the be-all and end-all in a lot of organizations like WKF. It's purely a competitive organization, and if you're in a WKF dojo, then everything revolves around competing. And often this is to the detriment of the other aspects of karate, the philosophy, the respect, and even to the detriment of removing certain techniques, certain basic drills, if you like, that they don't find will improve your competitive stance or, your competitive career. So some people in WKF, and I know because I've talked to them and watched them do kata, judged them doing kata, and all they do is practice that kata. It may not even be their style, and they'll certainly modify it to see how good it looks. Now, just before Christmas, I believe, I saw a WKF memo come out saying that they're not going to tolerate all these little add-ons that people are doing, like overly starched skis, exaggerated march-ins, and stances and long breaks in between techniques, just things. And of course, they nearly always go for the flashy-looking katas. What do the flashy-looking katas teach you? Probably not as much as the good, solid, shuri basic katas. Okay, you don't often see the strong katas done in competition, particularly WKF competition. In the Shotokan competitions, of course, you have to go through different katas where you get a knockback on your basics, like you'll all perform your hands, and in the second round, you'll perform the second round like Basaidai, Kankodai, Jion, MP, and you'll be eliminated on those. So these eliminated rounds ensure that you know, or you have a good knowledge of all of these katas. And I know in Wuska we used to do 2 rounds on the elimination on the second stage, second round katas, Basaidai, Kankodai, etc. And then in the final round, if you got to the final, you could do your Tukui kata, which was your free kata. And I'll be honest with you, you actually get sick of looking at Goji Shio Dai and Unsu all day. You can say what you want, but I honestly don't believe kata competitions, they don't have a great niche in karate training, kata competitions. It doesn't prove anything. And most people now, they either just go into kata or into kumite. They don't train in both. Now, like many of you listening, I know that you came up through the ranks like me, where if you entered a competition, you entered as many events as your instructor told you to. Everybody did kata and kumite. You didn't have a choice. And that's the way it was. And then if you were good enough, they would also put you on a team. And didn't really have a lot of kata teams. I remember they started to come out with kata teams, and some of them were really good. Okay, but your kata's only going to be, kata team is only going to be as good as the slowest guy or the poorest guy. Now, if you've got 3 world-class stars, I can guarantee you they're going to be doing the kata differently. Everybody does the kata differently. That's why it's a competition. You look for the differences. You look for what's done well in a kata. That's what I do when I'm judging. I've been world-class judge for a long time in kata and kumite. And when I'm judging kata, I was taking the overall impression first. And then I think to myself, what did the guy do good? All right? You don't go looking for what he did bad. Besides, that's pretty subjective. Okay? What you need to do is look at what he did good and how he did it good. Maybe his timing was a little different, okay? Maybe just a ton of power in his techniques, fluidity, stuff like this. Everybody knows the criteria for judging kata, so I'm not going to give you that. But it's a good way of identifying everything. You have little rubrics in your mind, if you like, that you run through for what people are doing. Of course, you have to have the full kata, the flow, and everything must run in the correct sequence. But as I say, this is competition, and it's not always what you're training for. As I mentioned earlier, when you ask people why do they want to train in karate, a lot of the times their answer will be, well, I want to compete. And this is great. I love coaching when I coach, and I've coached many teams over the years, and I honestly believe the best thing I've ever done in karate was teach, and the second best thing was coach. I've won the odd competition, and if you've been around long enough, everybody's going to win the odd competition. And, those events might stick in your head. But I feel I've given more to it, and I've gotten more for myself through teaching and through coaching. So if you want to get ahead in the coaching and the teaching, then you have to look at what motivates your students. And if they say, I want to compete, then your obvious follow-up question is, why do you want to compete? And at what level do you think you're capable of competing? Now, they're not going to know if they're just starting, so this is, going to be a down-the-road question. So you want to look at the sources of sports motivation for anybody, right? When you look at competition is just a modern factor of a primitive life force or energy, the struggle for survival, the will to win. This is basic in all of us. This is how we're made, okay? So it's a way of channeling your aggressions, dealing with conflict, and assessing your own competence. So you want to get into competition, whether you know it or not, but to psychologically satisfy those bases, okay? So there's a couple of things that you'll want to look at. The extrinsic evaluation of sports is the recognition, the attention, maybe the prizes, I don't know, trophies, but also your position or status if you're a winner or not. And then there's intrinsic feelings that you're going to have, emotions of a feeling of well-being. It's going to boost your self-esteem, and it's going to boost your confidence, and it's going to give you, to a certain extent, an identity. Now, you can use, as a coach, all of these things to motivate your competitors into performing better. And if you understand what motivates people and why they want to do it, then you stand a better chance of getting a better performance from your athletes or from your fighters if you can apply a little bit of logic to what motivates them. And there's different things that you're going to have to do. Sometimes they won't agree with you. If you tell them, I want you to not throw so many kicks, or maybe try and get your distance a little better, change your technique here and there, they'll want to question that. They'll always want to question it, because if they've been doing a technique a certain way, it's because it's comfortable for them. And they may have actually been lucky a couple of times and scored with that technique. It doesn't mean they'll do it all the time. The other thing is, you've got to give them a good enough bag or a good enough arsenal of techniques that they can switch. And this you're going to do in your training drills. And you're going to show them how it works and why it works. And once you can do that, you're going to gain more and more trust and more confidence in you. And the other thing is, you're going to be a lot more confident in your athlete being on the floor and doing what you want him to do, which of course he's going to do to win. You're there to help him. You're not there for your benefit. Everything is for the athlete's benefit, the fighter's benefit, okay? It's like when you're training in the dojo, when you're teaching, everything should be for your student's benefit. It's not, hey, look at me, I can do this kind of deal, which you see in a lot of clubs these days. Basically, the instructor is showing you how good he is, and everyone's going, ooh, he's great, you know. It doesn't mean say you're going to be great. And that's the same thing that happens with big organizations. Maybe these organizations have been successful. Maybe they are successful. Does that make you successful? There's no kind of glory by association, or there shouldn't be, and you shouldn't want it to be. Just because you belong to an organization doesn't make you any better at karate than somebody who belongs to another organization. And when you get multi-style competitions, which I always encourage, you're going to realize this. Belonging to an organization does not mean that you're better than anybody else. It doesn't mean that the organization is better than anybody else's. As karate is so individualistic, you have to do your own training. You have to come to grips with your own philosophy. You have to come to grips with your own mind, with your own ability, with your own capability. And once you accept that, you're going to gain an awful lot from training in karate. It's going to be a good lifestyle for you. It's not going to be something that you'll easily walk away from. Once you realize the benefits of karate training, they stay with you, okay? So many people go, oh, I used to do karate and I'm so sad I left. Yeah, we all make mistakes in life, but most of the time they're fixable, okay? I know you can't put spilt milk back in a jug, but you can always go back to the dojo and then just train to the best of your ability. You know, if you're doing something as well as you can do it, you're usually pretty satisfied with yourself. I know we all wish we could do it better. Believe me, at my age, there's a lot of things I can't do. Not that I haven't done them, but a lot of things I can't do now. But you can always go back to the dojo, okay? We do have some people that come back in and they're so glad they came back. They're happy with it. They don't compete. They don't want to compete. They just want to train. They want to be proficient. If they have to use it, hopefully they'll know how to use it, work on all the different aspects of karate training. And it's not just competition, right? It's self-defense, it's awareness, it's peace of mind, it's being confident in your ability to look after yourself and yours if you need to, okay? And as someone who's been in a lot of confrontations, if you like, when I was younger, and I said it's a mindset that you pick up on really quick when you're in a confrontation. You have to, otherwise you're down. And that's not where you want to be, okay? But the mindset, and, I asked the question, did karate make you a better street fighter? No, but it gave me a lot more options in terms of technique and mindset as to when to go. It taught me better timing, taught me better distance, okay? And I'd boxed previously, which did the same kind of things, but a little bit different outlook. But if you pick up on everything that's involved in karate, and you work on your timing, you work on your distance, you work on your target. This is what I say are the three most important things in kumite: timing, distance, target, and the weapon you use and what you use it against, then you're going to succeed mostly. So what I say is if you're coaching, you want to try and give all of this to your students in your everyday training. Now, when you come against people who aren't from your own club or aren't from your own style, and this is what team selection's about. And I've coached our teams where they've had different styles, different people. Some of them I've known, okay? And what you have to do, you get a first chance to look at them on squad training, and then you pick them out, and then you work with them a bit more, see how they fit in with the team, because everybody fits in together. And this is another motivational factor in why people train. Not peer pressure, but peer acceptance, and the social aspect of being with people who are like-minded. Whether they're a different style or not, it doesn't matter. I think I've had up to 4 or 5 different styles on a team when I've been coaching teams. But it doesn't stop you motivating them in the same way, because this is how people all behave. It all goes back to that basic thing, when the will to fight and win. Just the sorts of sports motivation, a struggle for survival, and the will to win. It's in your basic brain that come through from, when we were having to hunt for food and stuff like that. And life was a competition. The survival of the fittest, if you like, if you're going back to Darwin. So what we do is, it's not to that extreme, of course, but if you understand that that's where we basically are, and then move up and evolve from that, and evolve your training from that, then I believe that you get a better philosophy and outlook on coaching and teaching. Anyway, that's it for now. As I say, I've had a few health problems, so hopefully I'm over them. And I'll talk to you again. As usual, any questions, comments, queries, whatever, let me know. Take care. Bye.